You're right. Well, this next session, we probably, I don't know whether we missed the target a bit. We had a few people complain that it may have been some sort of conspiracy theory that we were asking for questions in writing 4 days prior to the conference, but that was me, and my reasoning for that was I was pretty frustrated the last time we had a members forum in Rockhampton that, you know, we'd assembled and we had a group of people there and we asked for questions and nobody had any, and I thought if we gave people the opportunity to actually put something down and think about it and not be and put it on paper and not be intimidated in front of a large group of people to put their hand up and say something, we might get a better response. And we've got a reasonable response. So I'm just going to read we've put the questions to the executive because they're probably the most qualified to answer them. So we'll go through the questions that were supplied by members one at a time. So we've got questions from Tom and Marie Copley. In the context of moves away from the Brahman breed in the north and the clear failure of the breed to drive genetic gain in fertility and therefore profitability, does the executive see alarm bells in the fact that the breed average for days to calving has actually risen? What can and is being done to address this trend? Reid.
Well, I don't think there has been a clear failure. The ABBA and its members have been enthusiastic supporters of the research projects like BIN, Rubicon, going back to CRC, and all those projects have had a heavy focus on fertility. So, we've been in that space. But to your point though, I think the challenge for us as bull breeders is to be able to meet and exceed those, and I'm going to call them industry specifications because that's almost what they are now, on those important production traits like growth and fertility. And on the growth side of things, we've probably done a pretty good job. But on the fertility side of things, we've probably got a bit of work to do. And what that looks like, in my opinion, is that, the days of selling a run of bulls that haven't met some sort of fertility benchmark, whether that be, scrotal size or morph or EBVs or just coming from a cow herd that's well managed and control mated and all that, I think those days are gone. And we probably need to step up to the plate on that as bull breeders, and we need to move on it, and we need to move pretty quickly. On the days to calving EBVs, the days to calving EBVs have actually gone down, which is good. Scrotal size has gone up, which is good. So I think any trend there that's been reflected in the fertility EBVs is positive rather than negative.
And Reid, as more people start to measure, there's going to be changes in the average as we bring more cattle online. I mean, we can't change that. That's going to happen. I do think probably when, we didn't realise the importance of scrotals 10 or 15 years ago, and I think the breed's far more educated on that now, and I think the society's sent some benchmarks. And we continue to inform and educate is about as much as we can do from an association point of view. I do think, as I said earlier, I do think the introduction of genomics will probably, breed plan membership's going up about 10% a year. Genomics records are going up. I see on the table that Paul sent to us, 97% of sires now have an EBV. Like, that's a big improvement in a short period of time. That's all happened since we've started doing a little bit of recording. I mean, we can't enforce anything on anybody as far as measuring is concerned. The market's going to do that, but I think the market is.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Matthew, because the role of the association is to provide the information and the tools to people, and then it's up to them to set their breeding programs. We've never taken a prescriptive approach to it, and we never will. But all we can do is provide those tools and as much information as we can. I think we do a pretty good job of that. But it's up to you to talk to your bull clients and get aligned with their goals and then set your breeding objectives accordingly.
We'll move on to the next question. Is the Society considering employing, from Tom and Marie Copley again, or Marie and Tom? It was written as Marie and Tom, but I thought I'd give Tom a go at being first. Is the Society considering employing a qualified geneticist to help drive genetic improvement? Well, we get 3 or 4 of them for free, Reid.
Oh, and they're 3 of the best. And Brad was here today, Matt Walcott, David Johnson.
Brad's still here.
Yeah, David Johnson probably gives more time to Brahmins than any other breed. And they're all very practical, they're all approachable. If you think, that they can help, and I no doubt they do, all you have to do is pick up the phone, because they're very good at what they do.
Yeah, Jono's disappointed he couldn't be here. He had something else on, but he would generally make our conference. Question 3, again from Tom and Marie Copley. What efforts are being directed towards rewarding or incentivising in a meaningful way the submission of phenotypical data which underpins the single-step analysis?
Well, this has been discussed at the board level since as long as I've been on the board, which isn't that long, but for 10 or 15 years anyway. And what the point is that if you're using a genomic EBV in your bull sale catalogues, but you're not submitting data, you're kind of riding on the coattails of the people that are submitting data. They're kind of doing all the heavy lifting for you. That and the work that we get done at Repronomics, which is a more representative population, so probably has a bigger impact on those genomic EBVs. But the data that people submit is just as important. And we've spoken about this at length. I'd like to see more people submit data. There's no doubt about that. And if something was ever to happen, and Andrew Byrne did a really good presentation on that, if something was ever to happen and we lost that reference population, then pretty quickly all those genomic EBVs they're just going to fall off a cliff as far as their accuracy and their value. So I think the onus is on us as members and as breeders to submit a bit more data. As far as rewarding the people that are doing it, that's a bit of a curly one, and I guess Brett Coombs has said multiple times that your motivation for submitting data and getting involved with EBVs is genetic improvement, and that should be reward enough, I guess.
Could I just ask a question while we're on that vein?
Yes.
Would the executive committee, I think there are people, especially in the north, that are collecting that raw data, that would like to submit their data to ABBA, but being a large number, it becomes prohibitive because of the price, and it brings your cost of production down, up, So would the executive consider, say brackets, if you wanted to submit data for over 1,000 head, would that price reduce? Not reward those people, but make it more affordable for people to submit bulk data, so that reference herd remains current.
And are we talking about performance records or DNA?
Performance records.
Yeah, okay.
200 days, 400 days, scrotals.
Yeah.
So that's a breed plan issue more than a society issue, isn't it? John will know.
Matthew, the value of the phenotypic data, the reference population, is no value without a matching genomic sample. So you've got to have the two to be in the reference population. Just having data will give you an EBV, which will service the needs of the member. But so first of all, you've got to have the matching genomic genotype and the phenotype, and the other issue that really needs to be considered is is the hard to measure traits, which need to come from somewhere. The moment they're coming out of the bin projects and the repronomics projects, but how long that goes for and how that gets funded is something that does need to be.
Reid and I have both had a discussion with Crowley today, so he seemed very generous just before he left.
And what Matthew means by that is that you know, us continuing the repronomics project is almost contingent on receiving funding from MLA or to do it, and that's not getting any easier to do. It's just getting difficult enough. But to answer your question a bit better, Annie, if you had records if you had performance records that had DNA profiles attached to them for those animals, and the performance records were across a range of traits, we would definitely consider that, because that's, you know, that I forgot to mention that, John. It's a very good point. Performance records on their own are one thing, but for the genomic EVV side of things, we need the DNA profile to go with it. So we definitely consider that.
And as far as cost to the society, like if it's a cost burden paying to the society, we've always, Brett, from an ex-treasurer history, we've always discounted large groups on a mob-by-mob basis. You just need to talk to us.
Paul?
Just on that, the breed bank fees are set by the Breed Society.
Yeah.
I know that another Breed Society is at the moment put a grace period of say 12 months for any historical data to get it in, that people that want to have that data at a lower price, and they're actually it's free for a time to get that data in.
And our rate for contributing data is pretty good, isn't it? Like it's one price per animal, regardless of how many traits you submit. Where a lot of other breed societies, you pay per trait, don't you?
Yeah, most are moving to the corporate model, but your costs are a lot lower than most of the rest.
Yeah.
So once you put one weight in trait, that just first trait you pay for, and that covers every other trait.
Yeah.
For that animal.
I think Tom was first. Sorry.
When you're ready.
Just perspective of some of those questions is going back to the slide, I think it was the Neogene gentleman had up, it's the rate of gain that other breeds are getting, and that's our fear is that we fall behind that. What was it about? It was nearly twice the rate of gain, wasn't it?
I think it was Brad's presentation.
Yeah.
In terms of the accuracy, the accuracy is certainly is.
And so we need those numbers to do it, and that's out of the Ben Hayes stuff and all that. We've piggybacked on some of that. That's got to keep rolling along to get those accuracies, to get that rate of gain to stay relevant, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Sorry.
Yeah, just following on from what Annie said, we've been following the program too, where we've done that entire herd, plus a lot of our historical records as well. So, but what I have discovered, I think over the last 2.5 years, I've put 36,000 individual records on the database. And I have a lot of raw data with weights, etc. But I can't put those in the EBD system because we don't have accurate days to calving. Because if you put in a days to calving which is sort of too young or too old, it's going to start holding out. So you've got piles of data, raw data sitting there. But what I've been working on with stock tracking systems is an algorithm based on a branding weight and a weaning weight, getting an average days to calving, and then going backwards from your branding weight, taking off your birth weight, and getting a relatively more accurate days to calving. Because where you've got 600 cows running in paddock, you're not going out getting calf when it drops. Days of birth, sorry. Yeah. Put down the flow.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
So getting days to birth. I meant to say days to birth, sorry. So before you can actually put that information in the system to get it relevant, you have to get a reasonably accurate birth date. So that, to me, is if that was something we could work on and probably incorporate that in the system somehow where that is more accurate, then there's a lot of raw data out there which are probably a lot more to be able to put in the system. I know I could because I've got the mountains I would see, but I can't really utilise it without getting that.
John, you could look, Ben Hayes' program didn't have a birth date, did it? It just had all the other data, and it proved to be a little bit inaccurate.
Yeah. Well, as far as Brahmins are concerned, like Ben said, anybody that's got access to breed plans should use it. It's the gold standard.
And then didn't have a birth date.
No, they didn't have a birthday.
There is.
But we did look at that. We did look at trying to incorporate or looking at doing a branding to weaning EBV once, and I can't remember why we didn't do it.
Birth dates aren't a problem in more extensive areas, there's no question of that.
Yeah, and it's something I think we need to address because there are huge numbers of cattle being bred out there that raw data can be utilised efficiently for the breed, which is currently not being, just can't use it.
Yeah, I guess that building some sort of algorithm that when you work off a branding date or weight to determine a birth date, I don't like the sound of that.
Yeah,
We've actually built one. We've actually built one now. I'm working on it with Rob Practice Systems. We've actually built one and we're working with it. And what I'm currently doing, I've got 600 actual visual upgrades, which aren't always accurate. What we're doing is run that algorithm, and then matching up with what we have got to see how accurate it is from the field to the algorithm. We're not, that's our next step. We've got the data, and we're going to run it. But it's got to the stage where it's such a huge program, so running out of brain space and time and everything else.
Yeah, I'd like to have a talk to David Johnson about to Jono. I think we will take that to the technical committee and talk to Jono and just get some genetic scientific advice on it. Sorry.
If I can just add a couple of comments to the discussion around it. John mentioned before around the work that was done, I think it's almost 15, 20 years ago now, John, to look at where if we took an early weight on an animal through, and then whether we could use that kind of, and then growth rate instead of actually requiring a date of birth. I can't remember where it went to, but it never got implemented in the breed plan system. And I tend to think it's not actually, I don't think we've got the gap in performance records in the weight traits. That's kind of not the area in which we need to focus on. So date of birth is really impactful on that kind of thing. But where the gap is going to be in performance data longer term is in the harder to measure traits across our fertility, across our carcass traits, across carbon emission and methane emissions and all those type of things. So I don't think, in terms of getting the value of genomics things going forward, I don't think the weight traits we're not going to have a void of information that's going to support a reference in those. So I think there's that one. In terms of the actual collecting of date of birth that's going there is a lot of ag tech starting to come through now that's enabling, it's cost prohibitive probably still at the time, but I expect that's where the future will be in terms of using tags and things with accelerometers and whatever in them, which is going to enable you to get that data without being in the paddock.
Right, we'll move on to the next question. Hey. Yeah, what efforts are being made to address the diminishing amounts of phenotypical data being contributed for analysis in Brahman when compared to other breeds? Well, I think we answered that one. That was the question you just asked. So we go on to our next question, which is from Carl Knuth. Hi everyone, chirpy sort of character. And a great question. Hi everyone, my question would be, what are people's thoughts on pushing a Brahman marketing campaign similar to that of the Angus breed? At present there is a 60 to 70 cent disparity between the Brahman and flatback feeders and $1 to $1.20 disparity between Brahman and Angus to go into any feeder steer category. These numbers are going to push people away from the breed in my opinion. The difference is too great to ignore, especially when the current Brahman heifer market is taken into consideration. And he's right. And I think we've talked about a fair bit of marketing today, and I think we've taken it on board. And yeah, I think there's a bit of space that we're looking into as far as marketing and creating a campaign and spending significantly on it as an association. Yeah, watch this space. We do take that on board, and I mean, we've heard from all the fellas in the north, they want us to market ourselves better. I mean, maybe it's time we create a better brand. And we've talked about that for 2 or 3 years, and it's just never got across the line. And that's why these forums are so important. Like, if the members are behind it, I mean, we're the conduit to try and create it. Like, and maybe that's what we've got to do. We've got to work on a brand, and not a beef brand, because I've been against that for 30 years. But work on a Brahman brand that accentuates all our positives, of which we've heard today. There are many. So yeah, point taken.
Yep.
We're onto it.
Yep.
Can I add to that, please?
Yes, George.
I made the comment to Edwin that he's got, through JBS, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 breed brands. Why can't we go in collaboration with them? It just would be logical.
That would be the only way you would do it, George. You're exactly right. Would be to be in partnership with a processor or a meat retailer. You're absolutely right.
And we haven't done it before because we've always been defensive. Because Brahmins are constantly criticised. So we haven't turned it around to say, we've got something to say, and we hear it all the time. At the last Brahmin World Congress, and we're talking now 8 years ago, 2016, that fabulous array of meals that we had through the Congress, the beef was fantastic. 8 years ago, we've done nothing. We haven't done much since then. I know every beef there's another one and whatever, but still the marketing hasn't gone any further.
Yeah, I think what happens at beef with those restaurants pales into significance compared to what Edwin said today when he said this Royal brand's going great guns and Brahman cattle are doing it nicely. Like, I've never heard anyone ever say that about any of the breed brands. So that's a big change for us.
Yeah,
But what happens at beef with a few steaks we put on the thing every 3 years? It's nice promotion, but if we think that is going to somehow magically roll into our own Brahman beef brand, that'd be very, very unlikely. To be honest, it's very unlikely.
we're promoting to ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
That's the problem. We've got to promote outside. And that's why I'm working with a big processor, because they work much more in the outside world.
Yeah.
At least, and that's a positive step as against the defensive behaviour Brahmins have exhibited over many, many years.
Can I use an analogy? Because I think there's a lot of breeds now, like there's always been carcass competitions and they all go against each other and there'll be a Wagyu or bloody Limo or depending what it was, if it's a trained people, Limo's win it as the eye muscle, is to rather try head to head against the other brand, maybe run their own. There's a few breeds now doing their own, like, their own breed carcass competition, so the best of Brahmins and promote the fact there is bloody good stuff within the Brahmins. And the analogy I'll use is when COVID happened and the rugby super competition, they couldn't travel abroad, so that the New Zealand teams couldn't come in, so it was an Australian only competition. And the viewers, the actual, those couple of years that the Australian teams played themselves was unbelievable. It was people turned up in droves for games because it was a really good competitive game. And then now the Super League's back playing the Kiwi teams and they're killing us. No one's watching the new stuff. So if you stay, like Brahmins have got such great stuff there, you find the best in that breed, and the breed will get a good name just because you're running a great comp and there's some animal out there that's done some freak number that you can't play.
That's something
I think if you keep trying to go head to head, I mean, it's just different worlds. It's just, I wouldn't even, there's the Brahmin world is the Brahmin world is the Brahmin world. There's some quite different things about it. And yes, and this is part of the problem with Australia being so bloody big. Anyway, that's just my 2 points.
Yeah, and that's how, I mean, logistically having a processor take on a brand and calling it Brahman, like, you've got to go right back to they've got to get QA to dictate that product is genuinely Brahman. We have to write a whole set of rules that allow that to be packed and sold as that product. But most importantly, and the thing that, and I've discussed this and I've been close to them for for 30 years, and I've discussed this many times with the Brahman lovers and the Brahman haters in them, and their rock that they throw in front of me that I can't jump over is find me a customer. Find me a customer that's going to consistently pay more for a product because it's got the Brahman name on it, and we'll produce it as a natural cause of events, because all we're interested in is making money for ourselves. So the day you find me a customer that wants to buy a Brahman product over anything else is the day a processor will naturally come online. I mean, Terry Nolan seemed like the perfect person to do it, because he uses a lot of Brahman cattle and he's developed a really good method of feeding them, and he produces a very good product. He doesn't want to pack it as Brahman product because he buys his stores cheaper. That's what makes him more profitable. So you know, it's a hard road to hoe. I don't know. It'd be nice. But I mean, let's just claim ownership to a bit of the Royal brand.
Absolutely. Maybe we could get a Brahman Bulls head on
Edwin, mate.
Well, there's another saying, I understand we might not all. So we unite to keep our industry alive, or we divide and crash.
What's next?
Next question, John Cowan. This is an easy one. Why does the conference have to be held in Brisbane? Why can't it be held in Rocky? Well, it was in Rocky last year, and we do want to consistently have it here in Brisbane at Echo time. On off years, we will have it, but we do want to go to the regions as well. We've got a membership that spreads from Victoria in the north to Kununurra, Victoria in the south to Kununurra in the north. We'd like to get everybody involved. I don't think we can be a one venue wonder. So sorry, John. Sorry, I can't see with my glasses or without them. Why does the association support Brahman sales that have inferior animals? We are struggling to maintain an even playing field in the sale yards now with good quality, so we should not be supporting poor quality bulls going out into breeding programs. That's for you, Reid, or Lawsy.
Well, we don't support Brahman sales that sell poor quality bulls. The association sponsored sales have a entitlements and allocations policy that rewards people whose bulls sell well and penalise people whose bulls don't sell well. And you know, that's about the only way. It's always been probably an unwritten rule, but it's always been a policy that we let the market decide what's acceptable and what's not. Otherwise, there's no other way of doing it.
And we can all remember back to Brahman Week when we had registered and unregistered bulls, and bulls would get knocked out of the registered section to be sold in the herd bull section and actually make more money than if they had been in the registered section. So I don't know who can quantify or who can classify that. That's the market sorts that out. We have to have sire from the same person. We have to have sire verification for bull sales. So why do we not have the same rules for female sales? I think Wendy had looked into this one.
Yeah, so we actually don't, Brahman bulls don't have to be sire verified. That's not a rule at this stage. We now have the Brahman bundle that they've all got to have, all the registered bulls. And I've sent it to an ex-council meeting that I believe that all the society registered female sales for society sales need to have the same, and that all embryo calves, IVF or normal ET, I believe that they should be parent verified. So that's going to a council meeting next.
And sire verification is part of the bundle.
Yeah, it is.
So going forward, they will be sire verified.
Yeah, but there is some now because of like some of the older bulls.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a phasing period.
Yeah,
sure.
but it doesn't actually say they have to be sire verified.
It's a bit of it's becoming a legal requirement of breed societies to prove the validity of pedigrees, and that's, you know, now that there is the ability to do a DNA parentage test, we'll be forced into doing that for all of our registered cattle over time, and we know that, and we're phasing it in as softly as we can, but it is a phase, and it will be it is a thing, and and that ends them. Reid. Do we ask for more, or have we had enough? So I'm sure John and Marie Copley don't have any more.
Tom.
Tom, sorry.
Oh, we're here
John was the
now.
last bloke. Anybody else with any assistance in direction or
Positive feedback.
positive? Thank you very, very much.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Reid.
No worries.